Hey guys, my name's Don. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about why location beats color. I've always been amazed at how fishermen will try 25 different colored plastic worms while they move from one spot to the next, somehow believing that magic color is going to somehow make the fish bite. They'll start with green pumpkin and switch to black and blue, then maybe watermelon, and then something with glitter on it, all the while running the electric motor and heading to the next bank. The truth is, color is rarely the problem. The real key is location. If the bass aren't there, it doesn't matter if your worm is purple, chartreuse, or painted like the American flag. You're not going to get any bites. On the other hand, once you catch a bass in a particular location, especially if you catch more than one there, that tells you something important, really almost critical. There's a reason those fish are there. Maybe it's a drop off. Maybe it's a stump field. Maybe it's a little ditch that acts like a highway for fish moving in and out of the different areas. But whatever the reason, the location becomes the key. I remember a friend of mine telling me last year about a monster bass that he caught. Actually, he didn't catch the bass. He got it all the way to the boat, and somehow it came unhooked, and he lost it. And he was really down in the mouth, really upset. But we got talking about it, and he asked me, he said, "You think that fish is still there?" And I'm no expert, uh, but I got to believe from what I've read, from what I've heard, and from what I've witnessed myself, that the bass is probably in the same spot. I believe that simply because bass tend to follow migration routes. There's a reason that fish moved up into that area. They tend to move from deep water to shallow water and then back again, depending on the season, depending on the water temperature and the availability of food. You know, it it doesn't seem like sometimes it makes a lot of sense. But as long as that route exists, fish will continue to travel through the same areas season after season after season. Biologists who have tagged bass learned something really fascinating a number of years ago. They learned that most bass travel a relatively short distance from where they're caught. In many cases, they stay within 50 yards of that area. Think about that. That means the bass you caught, or even the one that got away, may still be living right there, and all you have to do is go back to that spot and fish for them. And here's an interesting thing. Big bass often travel together. Not always. Sometimes big bass are loners. But sometimes, all bass, just like other panfish, are schooling fish. So it's not unusual to find big bass together. I found them in schools up to 6 and 8, big fish in one school. And if you've watched any of the underwater photography that Glenn Lau and some of the other experts have put together over the years, I mean, up in Ocala, they're showing schools of bass in the 8 to 10 pound range. There must be 30 or 40 bass all in that one area swimming together. So, yeah, it's fair to say that they're a schooling fish. And if you've caught one big bass in an area, there's a good chance there's another one nearby. That's why experienced anglers pay very close attention to where they catch fish. They mark those spots mentally. Often they'll mark them on their GPS because those are the locations that tend to produce time and time again. The key isn't a new colored worm or a a new lure that you somehow believe the bass has never seen. The key is patience. Work those productive areas carefully. Fish them thoroughly. Give them time. Just because you caught a bass on a plastic worm doesn't mean you won't catch him again a second time or a third time on a plastic worm. And maybe it's the same plastic worm. Don't believe at least that a bass is smarter than it actually is. In all that time that you're working those areas, that bass is probably there. Just give him time. If he's not hungry, maybe you can provoke him into striking. Too often people make too few casts. They don't get a bite, they pack up and they leave. I'm sure you've met the type, we used to call them guys that like to run and gun. He'll fish an area for 15 minutes. If it doesn't produce, they're out of there. Location beats color almost every time. So the next time you're tempted to dig through your tackle box looking for the perfect color of a plastic worm or looking for that brand new bait that somebody told you, you can't miss, remember this. If the bass aren't there, the color, the shape, the style of bait is not going to make any difference. But if you find the right location, almost any plastic worm, regardless of color, almost any lure, regardless of size and shape and action, almost anything will catch them if you're in the right spot. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day.